Governor McDonnell, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks, Abby.
I want to start by asking you, where were you when you first heard the news, and what was your reaction?
Well, I was sitting in my home office down in Virginia Beach, and got a call about 1:20 in the afternoon from one of the lead counsel, Hank Asbill, and he said, I just got a call from the prosecutor's office, and they said they have news about the case, and they want to have a conference call in 20 minutes. So after that nerve-wracking 25 minutes or so, he called me back and he said, "It's over." And I asked him again to make sure, the case is over? He said, yes. They just called and said they're going to file an order today to dismiss the case and announce it in an hour. And so, of course, it was just a shout of exhilaration, and went out in the hallway at the office, and people could hear me, and they came to see what was going on, and lots of warm embraces and some tears. And then I started calling my wife and my kids, and it was a marvelous moment, Abby, after 43 months of difficult time and agony, but great encouragement from people. It was over.
What have the past 3.5 years been like for you and your family?
It's been a remarkably diverse range of emotions. I mean, the first 10 months, to learn that the government of my country was investigating me and then seeking to indict me after 38 years of public service in the Army, prosecutor, Attorney General, Governor, and other things. I mean, it just hit me to the core of my being. I believed with all my heart, I knew with all my heart I hadn't done anything wrong. I knew the laws. I knew we had done everything we could to comply with the laws, and yet the federal government had made this determination that they felt I had violated the corruption laws of my office, which, so it was very difficult, especially that first 10 months up until the point of the indictment. Going from governor to indicted in 11 days was a very difficult set of events. But over time, because of my faith in God and the encouragement of people of faith, of strangers in the supermarket, of family, of pastors, I got more and more encouraged that if I trusted in God, if I was patient, if I kept my head up every day, that this was all going to be okay. And I felt like I got stronger by the month, by the year, and it's just this period of waiting and trusting was a very new experience for me. I'm not patient by nature, and so to get to this day where it's finally over and I can turn the page and enter the fourth quarter of life with a clean slate and start to do some service again for others in a more significant way was a great moment.
What was it like going from living in the governor's mansion to just 11 days later being indicted?
I pretty much knew as we were leaving that the government was on an irreversible course. They had actually sought to move that up and have an indictment much earlier than that, but because it was a gubernatorial election year, they waited. But the stress on my administration, not just me and my family, but our administration, our supporters, the cloud of doubt over our entire team, my kids having to go before grand juries, have lawyers, respond to subpoenas, have tension in the family. It was an extraordinarily difficult time, but maybe in another way, it was a great teaching moment for all of us in self-reflection, in humility, in dealing with pain, and learning about injustice, and learning how to really follow some of the scriptural admonitions about not worrying about tomorrow. It's got enough problems of its own. Worry about today, be faithful today. And it taught me a new way of living, and I think my kids, my wife, my friends were able to understand that as well, and help me with daily encouragement and prayer and just good old-fashioned friendship to help us endure. But I have to say, to be indicted, it was probably about the lowest moment, next to the jury verdict, was the lowest moment that I've had in my life.
How did it feel having such intimate details about you and your family being exposed and scrutinized?
When you enter public life, you understand there's a cost, and you give up a certain amount of your privacy, and rightly so. You have to make disclosures about personal items. But a couple areas you always felt would be off limits, if you will, would be personal details about your family, your marriage, and things maybe about your finances. But when it came to the trial, so many of these things were either partly relevant to the charges a conspiracy between my wife and I. Had to prove there wasn't a conspiracy. And so it was exceedingly difficult to have all that exposed, but it's given us a chance in retrospect to enjoy this immense outpouring of love from people who saw the pain of that situation, who believed, like I did, that I never, ever did nor would do anything to betray the oath of office or to do anything to help somebody for money. I did it because it was the right thing to do, to help people to grow their business and have access to government. That's why we did things in the office. But I have experienced, I think, the most significant outpouring of love and affection and genuine friendship that I've ever experienced, by far, in my life, because I wasn't governor. I couldn't do anything for anybody. People were engaging us, my wife and me, as friends just because they cared or because they thought it was wrong or because they wanted to just be there as a brother or sister in Christ to just to help us. And so, you know, without the suffering and the cross, there is no resurrection. I kind of looked at that in my own life. You know, without suffering, you can't grow in some areas, and you learn a lot more about yourself and about growth than you do in times of success. So it was an experience that I certainly didn't enjoy in large measure, but yet I am so grateful to God that He gave me this opportunity to be humbled and to reflect and to learn about the bigger things in life, the eternal, and about service to others in a deeper way.
Now, your wife was charged as well. What is your relationship like after going through all of this?
Yeah, I thought her being charged was terribly unfair because she's not a public servant. She's not an elected official. She just happens to be my wife, and she can't abuse government power. And it's almost unprecedented in the history of the country to go after the wife of an elected official the way they did with my wife. So it was difficult. I thought she did a very good job of First Lady, caring for veterans and promoting business around the world. And so it's been hard. Trials are difficult under the best of circumstances. I've been a prosecutor on the other side, and I know what that's like. But to have the government come in and get documents and bring my family before the grand jury, and we feel almost completely helpless while all this is going on, has caused, you know, a lot of strain. And now the beauty of yesterday is now it's an opportunity to heal, to bind the wounds up, and to begin to think about, based on all these lessons and the marvelous experiences of success that God's given us, is, you know, how can we use these experiences now in the future to do maybe even better work for the kingdom.
After you had a unanimous Supreme Court decision in your
Yes.
favor, how did it feel to hear that the prosecution still wanted to retry you?
The work that my legal team did was extraordinary. After 2 years and not getting one judge, not one juror to agree that we were right on our theory of the law and are right on the fact that the government had put forth a false narrative, we thought, before the jury, until we got to the Supreme Court of the United States, and then every ruling on bond pending appeal, the granting of the writ of certiorari, the appeal, and then ultimately winning on the appeal unanimously with a divided court, was just a remarkable sense of vindication and justice that the High Court of the land finally saw this case for what it was, and that is, it was not a crime, it was not illegal behavior, and to have this opportunity then to move forward after that opinion. I think the government looked at the case, as they said in their statement yesterday, honestly, and said, look, after the Supreme Court opinion and in accordance with the rules of prosecution that they have at DOJ, they just didn't, they didn't have a case. And so I applauded them for doing the right thing. I'm grateful that they put an end to this now. I never know what to think about an article in the Washington Post saying they wanted to prosecute again because there's been 2.5 years of leaks, many of which were unfounded. So I didn't put much stock in that. I just had confidence in what our lawyers were doing, and just the sense along the way that the Supreme Court had really taken the wind out of the sails of the prosecution, and that they were beginning to realize that there was no illegal activity here and that they should move on.
So what's next for you? Any more politics?
I care deeply about the country. I've been in public service in some form, Abby, since I was a second lieutenant in the Army in 1976, and that's really all I've done, and God's given me a lot of opportunities and a lot of favor to be able to serve other people. And so I think as far as elected office, I've had a good run for 23 years to be have the same job as Thomas Jefferson. It was an extraordinary honor, and I thought our team did some really positive things. But now I think maybe that chapter's done, but there are critical issues about the country, like having more civility so people can work together to get this done, realizing this is about America, not parties, realizing that we have horrible problems with debt, with respect around the globe, with other types of divide, and we need leaders who are willing to get people to work together to get things done without compromising your principles. I mean, people want results. They're really unhappy about the status of the federal government. So I think that many of us that have been former governors can talk about the founders' vision of federalism and the state-federal balance. I think just seeing my own case, the federal government can be overreaching and do things that they ought not do, and that causes problems at myriad levels. And so I think I can talk about that. And I think also for people that struggle in life, which is about everybody who I've ever met that's had some trauma or crisis, I've learned a lot about dealing with heartache and pain and abandonment and injustice and shame and dealing with my own mistakes. And so I think I have something I might be able to offer people that are hurting about how to deal with it, and having faith in God and keeping your head up and persevering and trusting that in the end, if you're faithful, the Lord will find a way to work things out. And I think that's a good message for people of any age. And so I'm hoping I can do that, as well as some ministry. I've been working with Operation Blessing on some projects with the family, with the food banks and a couple others, and I find great enjoyment and richness in helping people at that level.
Now, finally, I want to ask, how can we pray for you and your family going forward?
Well, yesterday was the day of vindication, and now for a period of time will be a period of restoration of relationships. I'd like people to remember some of the good things that our team did in office. People worked extremely hard. 70-mile-an-hour speed limit, opening the rest stops. But more importantly, we had 4 surpluses in a row, historic numbers on that. We fixed some major problems with transportation, with higher education, and some great innovations in K-12, and we pretty much were able to address major shortfalls in the pension system. And so I think I'd like people to remember that, and really more for my team that gave up 4 years of their life to give to the people of Virginia, that they will know that their service was appreciated. And for my mom and dad, even though they passed away a number of years ago, they worked so hard to train me with good values and to build a good name. And I really want that name to be restored for my kids and my grandkids. So ultimately, the citizens will judge what they think about this, but the fact that the unanimous Supreme Court has done what they've done, and the government said, there's no crime here, we're going to walk away, is a huge step forward to the path of restoration. But ultimately, I think we can pray that God would give me whatever that new ministry is in service to others outside of elected office, whether it's talking about the important issues of our day that the founders cared about, or whether it's helping people through some of the important retail ministries to bring the love of God and a helping hand to people in need. I don't know exactly what form that's going to take. I've been thinking about it and praying about it for a while, but I would ask you and the viewers to help me think about that, and hopefully I got a lot of good years left to help.
Well, Governor McDonnell, thank you so much